Just imagine being able to draw something as complicated as this fan assembly in 5 seconds. There's the single fan blade that I've copied, like that one up there. I'm going to ask for 30 copies, automatically spread around that circle. Less than 5 seconds. I'll come back to this, but let me just give you a bit of orientation. You're looking at DrawExact, our new drawing app. It's designed to work on drawings, or to be particularly good on drawings, where the thing that matters most is the geometry and precision. It's free, and these were our design goals, which we've stuck to very rigorously. We were determined to make it simple and easy to use, but not at the expense of having a really sophisticated drawing capability. And the other priority we focused on very much was trying to find a way of working which would make it so that you can work in a very fast and focused way. You don't have to install any software, you just point your browser at DrawExact.click. I'm going to do an undo so that I can just show you that a little more calmly. I'm going to copy something I've already drawn, like that. I'm going to ask for 30 copies. This, by the way, is the shape shifter superpower, the first of DrawExact's alleged superpowers. And I'm going to ask for those 30 copies to be spread around whatever I go near, and it will show me a preview as I do. Move away, move closer. And if I like it, I click, and that's the paste. So the shapeshifter is stuff you can do in between copy and paste, and you'll see a bit more about that. These are the example drawings that are built into DrawExact. If you visit, you'll be able to experiment with these. And I'm going to start off by showing you some things in an engineering drawing, but then I'll deliberately show you some other types of drawings to show what DrawExact is good for. And my aim is to give you a feel of how it works. And in passing, I'll tease out the other two alleged superpowers. So here we go, engineering drawing. It's pretty good at putting in the content in the first place, which I will come to, but for the moment, let's just see how easy it is to put on dimensions like this. I want a horizontal dimension from that point to that point with a label somewhere around there, and I want to dimension that arc. Pretty quick, I think you'd agree. So let's move on to a graphics design drawing. But it's a graphics design where the focus is on geometry. You'll see that there are circles of different diameters rolled together so that they touch, and then the outline is traced from those. And let's see if we can reproduce this phenomenon, this circle that's nested in between two others, and we'll do it down here. So first I'm going to ask the question, what sort of radius might be good for that circle? The radius field is telling me that's 0.725. Let's ask for one that's 0.8. And then we can say, can we have a fillet between there and there, roughly through there? And then we can grow the fillet into its full circle representation. So already we've snugly fitted that circle in there. And then to trace the outlines, I'll pick up those line styles and ask for an arc through 3 points. And I'll pick up that point, and that point. So that's given you a sense of how easy it is to compose circles, to modify them, and to work with them. Let's talk about a bit more about that shapeshifter superpower, because it's one of the most central ones. Shapeshifter is some magic which happens in between copy and paste. And this shows it in detail. I've copied that bicycle like that, and you can see it. So the first thing is that you can experiment visually with the magic. So I could just put one down freehand down there. If I wanted to, I could put one on the end here, let it snap, which isn't what I want to do, because I'm going to do something a bit more sophisticated, more magic. So I said you can do things in between copy and paste. Well, we've done the copy, and this is the magic. This is the superpower panel. It's saying scale 1. What if I said scale 0.3 to make them smaller? What if I said, now rotate it minus 30 degrees? What if I now said, well, I'd like to visualise what 12 would look like spread along that line? I think I like them a bit smaller, so let's change, knock the scale down to 0.2. Yeah, but now they're too far apart. Let's bump the quantity up to 18. Yeah, I like that. So this is what you can do after copy and before the paste, and it makes copying and pasting much more useful because it doesn't have to be exactly right, because you can change it. You can make it bigger, smaller, rotate it. You can also mirror, which is very useful. I'll show you that. There's the bicycle appearing to be bicycling from left to right. If I say, well, how about mirroring it, but about a vertical line? Coming back the other way now. And that's not only productive and a bit of fun, but the main value is that most people have repeated things in the drawings they customarily do. Somebody, for example, might use a lot of bolts in their drawings. So what they would probably do is establish a special drawing just for themselves. They call it a library drawing, and they put into it maybe a 10mm bolt, looked at from different angles. And then they'll never have to draw a bolt again, because whenever they make another drawing but it needs a bolt, they can copy and paste using the superpower into the new drawing to make it whatever scale they want. If they wanted a 6mm bolt, they'll scale it 0.6. So that's the shape shifter superpower, and we'll now move on to a drawing which illustrates the next superpower, and it's called the infinite canvas. So the canvas is the area you're drawing in, and it doesn't have any sense of limit or size. I can make it as big as I like, and there's a very good reason for that, which I'll come back to in just a moment. But also you can zoom in and in and in and in to a staggering degree without losing any clarity, and that has some great practical advantages as well, which I'll show you. First of all, notice that this boat is 5,000mm long. That's not strictly true, it's 5,000 units long. DrawExact doesn't know about units. You draw in whatever units are in your head. All it knows is the numbers you type in, and if you ask for a line to be 5,000 long, it's 5,000 abstract units long. Anyway, so just keep in your mind this boat is 5,000 long, and we'll start zooming in. We'll zoom into the front half of the boat, and then the name, and then I can now see there's something happening inside that letter D. Let's zoom in on that. Let's zoom in the front half of the bird. Let's zoom in its head, its eye. It appears to have some detail inside each pupil in that little graphic. And the reason I've done this is so I can compare the measurement of what we're looking at now with the 5,000mm. If you look at the R field, we're looking at a circle whose radius is 0.027 of a millimetre, which I think you would agree is a pretty staggering level of zoom. And as you can see, it looks exactly the same. There's no fuzziness. It's still clear. You have to say, well, so what? And the reason that's useful is that when you design something in 2D, you often think first of all about the overall shape and size and dimensions, and sort of design the big picture, and then you hierarchically think about the details once you've got the constraints. So you might say, well, let's think about designing the rudder assembly. And then towards the end of that, you say, you know, I'm really not quite sure about that corner. And so you mentally drill down and work on the details. But of course, all that detail is there in the single drawing, which makes it very useful if you communicate it to somebody else. So that's the infinite canvas going in, but what about the infinite canvas going out? The reason that's so useful is that you can make a copy, for example. This is just one example. You can make a copy of the whole drawing, zoom out a bit to give you plenty of space, and pop another one down. And then you might make some modifications to this one without losing sight of the original. And that's an extremely comfortable, if I zoom to fit now, an extremely comfortable way of working on a variation. You can copy and paste pieces back and forth. And of course, you've always got the reference to the first one. So that's the second superpower, the infinite canvas. I'm going to dive down to the nuts and bolts now. How do you put the lines and the arcs and the text in the drawings in the first place? This example drawing documents the various automatic features, and I'm going to show you 3 of those just to give you a sense of them. And I'll also, in passing, introduce the third superpower. Normals. That means automatic right angles or automatic radial lines on a circle. So let's use that to do a line from here that goes up here, at right angles to this one and 10 units long, which you might think might be a bit tricky, but you'll see how it's not. Make the rays 10 long, ask for automatic right angles, and the drama's all over. Let's talk about automatic parallels. Say I wanted a copy of that line parallel that passed through that point. It's as easy as that. let's look at fitting an ellipse into that diamond. I'm going to come back now to why this was a superpower, because I'm going to do it slightly differently, which will introduce the superpower. This part is the same. The rays are already the right length. Now I'm focusing on this detail. I don't really want to have to move my cursor or my eyes. And I know that for a line, instead of going over to the menu, I can do L for line. And if you look over at the menu, you'll see that it's a little L next to the line, L for line. And it's a keyboard shortcut. L for line, A for arc, T for text, R for rectangle, U for undo, D for delete, G for grow. You get the picture. There's nothing to remember. It's just the first letter. Now the name of that superpower is the superpower that shall not be named, which we hope you get the literary illusion. But the reason we didn't want to give it a name was because the name would have had to have something like keyboard shortcuts in it, which is very boring. And most people have got a very awkward relationship with keyboard shortcuts, because in most apps you have to press lots of keys and they're very difficult to remember. And we think we've managed to rise above that by saying, well, L for line, A for arc, T for text, R for rectangle. I don't think you could get much simpler than that. And it's not just about making your drawing faster. It's really primarily for this advantage. Imagine I wanted to draw a line from there to there and then do something over here and then do something here. It's complicated detail, and I want my eyes to not leave this area. And I don't want my cursor to leave this area either. I want to stay in flow and focus. So I can go L for line. L for line. My eyes haven't had to change my fixation on that area, A for arc. And that helps you stay in flow, which has tremendous, it makes drawing much more enjoyable, and you can get more done and concentrate for longer. And before I leave this drawing, I want to say something about text. If I want some text, I say where I want it to go and say, give me some text. And you always get text 1, because then you do properties on it and you can edit it here and its various properties. But there's something in particular I want to show you. A, B, C. See how it's appearing down here as I type? D, E, F. Oh, wait a minute, I'm going to hit that line. This line here. So why don't I go on in here, do enter to go onto a new line? Some more. I'm going to hit the line again, enter, space, space, A, B, C, space, 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 D, E, F. Now why did I do that? You'll see. I want you to look at the C, the M, the A and the D, and you'll notice that they're absolutely perfectly lined up, and they always will be. That's part of DrawExact's design. It's a special font where letters are all the same width, and even spaces are the same width. So it means you can do this. You can control very carefully where the line breaks go to fit in with what you need in the drawing. And crucially, you can make indentation or bullet points with no fuss whatsoever. So that's how you put things in the first place. And you've now seen the superpower that shall not be named. One final example drawing, just to show you one other type of drawing that DrawExact is good for. And that's exploring movement. So the runner's knee could be considered as a pivot point. It might be interesting to see what this would look like if the knee was rotated to a point further on in their stride, maybe 30 degrees. So let's make a copy of the runner and put it there. Let's isolate the part of the leg we're going to change. Let's delete that one because we're going to change it, and bring it back. You can see where it came from. And now with the shapeshifter I can say rotate -30, and you can see now that almost instantly you can create a drawing where the knee has bent a bit further to illustrate them being further on in their stride. And that's something that people often do with DrawExact, is explore movements. It's not just rotations, you can do it with linear translations or movements. DrawExact has a move command. So that's actually the end of the sort of scope I was hoping to get across, but let me just summarise. We've tried to make it really easy to use. Hopefully you've seen that it has some quite sophisticated drawing capabilities. Hopefully you've seen that you can work fairly fast and stay focused. And we've introduced what we claim to be 3 superpowers. One is the shapeshifter, which really makes it easy to reuse stuff you've already drawn. A bit of magic in between copy and paste. The second one is the infinite canvas, which gives you several sort of thinking models about how you set about your drawing. And the final one is the superpower that shall not be named. And that is it. That's the toolkit you need to use DrawExact and enjoy it.